Hello, buddy. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be talking about Banner of Command and why I think it's a good item in Season 8 on certain champions. So first off, we're going to talk about what is Banner of Command, what are some of the stats, why do I think overall it's useful, like why would you get it, why has it historically been considered weak, why do a lot of people still consider it weak, what's changed in Season 8, why do I think that it's really strong, and then at the very end, just real quickly, like which champions do I think are best with Banner, and what are some situations where you might want to get Banner. So you can find timestamps for this in the description, as well as access to this Google Doc if you don't have time to watch the whole video. Okay, so let's start off. What is Banner of Command first? Let me go ahead and show you this. Now, I've been getting Banner a lot on Recon lately, and let me just come out and say it's been a really rough preseason for me. People that have been watching my stream know it's been rough. Season 6, I was Diamond. Season 7, didn't quite get there. We got to promotions for Diamond, and we just never quite made it through the promotions. And then, so we ended high Platinum 2. We'd been Platinum 1 probably like 5 times throughout Season 7. Failed the promos to Diamond, ended Platinum 2, then sank all the way down to Platinum 5, 0 LP in the preseason. I have been stomped in this preseason, and a lot of it is just experimenting with new stuff, you know, for the stream, just for knowledge. It's for experimentation, for fun, but also just not finding anything that's been particularly effective until very recently. Now, I had been having some pretty good success with Thresh. I was like 60% for a while. I was 60% with Leona. And then that just kind of normalized over time. And I just could not find something that could consistently carry me through, like, you know, having weak 80 carries or people just making all kinds of mistakes in the end game or just not having a way to engage. And then I started playing a lot of Recon with Banner of Command. Okay, so my Recon's running real hot. Everything else is kind of whatever. Janna's all right. Other stuff's bad. My Sona's been real bad, even though Sona was very good earlier in the season. I just didn't find a lot of success with her. And I think a big reason behind why this has been successful, I'm going to make a separate video about Season 8 Recon and why I think he's so awesome right now. But a big part of it is Banner gives you extra macro pressure. So it helps you close out games. It gives you that side lane pressure. It has great stats for a first item. It has just a lot of really good things about it that a lot of people underestimate, particularly with Ingenious Hunter and Zombie Ward, which I'll recommend here in a little bit, or I'll talk about here in a little bit. That's just sort of the backstory. Is I was having a really hard time, and then I switched over and just started spamming Recon with Banner of Command, and I think it's just been ridiculously effective in the last few days. Especially, that's what I've just started doing almost purely Recon, and that's a lot of blue on Recon. It's a lot of red on everybody that's not Recon. It's a lot of blue on Recon. So it does work, at least for me, at least, you know, in this current ELO, and I'll talk about why right now. But, you know, I have tried it out quite a bit, and I think that it's successful. I think it's also very good on Thresh. Although I think Thresh is very good, I just don't think he's as consistent as Recon. We'll save that for the Recon video. Both of them, I think, have been strong because of Banner of Command. So what is this item? What does it do? Why is it useful? Okay, so Banner of Command, 2,200 gold, 60 armor, 10% CDR, 125% base health regen, 30 magic resist, point runner, which means you get 20% movement speed whenever you're near towers. And Void Gates. So if you have a ZZ'Rot portal and you drop a Void Gate, you get 20% move speed near that as well. And Unique greatly increases the power of a lane minion and grants it immunity to magic damage. It has 1,200 range where you can promote, and then it lasts for 120 seconds. It's 2 minutes. Okay. And then the lane minions get these kind of stats. It reduces, so they can't be hurt by magic damage. If they kill minions, you get the gold for the minions. That's very important, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Increased size is whatever. And then it gives you the stat breakdown. Basically, the siege minion benefits the most in terms of health, gets the most bonus attack damage, doesn't get any bonus attack speed though, and it gets a lot of bonus armor and magic resist. So that's kind of the tankiest, becomes even tankier. Melee minions get a ton of extra attack speed. They get quite a bit of attack damage, they get a lot of bonus health. And they get the same kind of bonus armor, and so on and so forth. And then caster minions get a little bit of attack speed, a little bit of bonus health, a little bit more attack damage. So usually you'll want to use this on melee minions and siege minions. Siege minions are going to be the tankiest things, and they'll just push a lane all the way down until it hits a tower. Melee minions are the best for last hitting, and it describes all of this right here. Melee minions are the best for last hitting because they have really fast attack speed. And they just tear up towers. If they get on a tower or an inhibitor, they do a ton of extra damage because they just attack so fast. So this is kind of your business unit. It's going to get a lot of last hits for you. But if it's a really long lane, it has to tear through a lot of minions. It has a higher probability of dying than a siege minion because it's not going to be nearly as tanky. Whereas siege minion, it's not going to get killed except by champions most of the time. Okay, so pretty good. So in terms of just raw efficiency, it's 108 gold percent efficient by itself, and then it's 144% efficient when you're near a tower. And then the promote isn't really quantified. Now, it's key to note here, and I'll talk about this in a little bit. These components are very friendly. They're great for the early game. Extra reju bead is awesome. If you're a tank and you're in kind of a tough lane against Poke, you're against Anami, Sona, Karma, something like that, being able to get another reju bead early and have it build into something useful is actually very, very beneficial. That's a really strong item early game, reju bead. A reason that a lot of people won't get it is because it doesn't build into many things. If we look at reju bead, many things that would be useful for the bot lane, like of course you're going to get one into Targon's Brace if you're running a tank champion, but that's about it. I mean, you can also build one into a Redemption, or maybe Warmogs, maybe Righteous Glory. These are kind of uncommon tank items though. Like Warmogs is all right sometimes, but usually won't get it until like, you know, maybe your third or fourth item. You know, if you get it at all. Righteous is okay, but that's been nerfed several times. It's very expensive. I don't think it's worth it for a lot of champions. It's okay. It's okay, but it's not an item that you would rush a lot of times on a support. Tiamat's obviously really good, but you're not going to get that on support. And Adaptive Helm is a very rare buy on supports as well. So it's a good item, but usually won't get more than one because you're only going to build it into Targon's Brace if you're a tank. However, Raptor Cloak has one as well, so now you can get two if you want to do this build, and that can really help get you through some punishing lanes. So, let's see. Raptor Cloak and Banner. So pretty good. And then being able to get that Raptor Cloak early, the cost was reduced a while ago, fairly recently. In 7.12, the armor was reduced from 40 to 30, and it was reduced in cost from 1,200 to 900. So that's a pretty good boost. I mean, the loss of 10 armor is about 200 gold. Actually, it's exactly 200 gold because armor is 20 per. So you're getting a 300 cost reduction, and you're only losing 200 gold worth of armor. So you're basically netting 100 gold value on this, and it's just cheaper in general. So that's something that really went under the radar for a lot of people, because a lot of people just don't buy items that use Raptor Cloak a lot of the time, because Ohm Wrecker's a joke. ZZ'Rot hasn't been that good. Talisman is kind of a rare buy. And then Banner, a lot of people just won't buy that either. So Raptor Cloak is a very underutilized item, but that Point Runner is very, very nice. And the stats are very good for the early game. I mean, look at this. It's 975 just on the raw stats, not including the base movement speed. If you include 20% movement speed around towers, it's 1765 value. That's awesome. That's almost 200% gold efficiency early on. That's a fantastic early item. And I say early item because health regen falls off late game. You know, the extra 50% health regen isn't going to matter at 40 minutes in, but it matters quite a bit, you know, at 7 minutes into a game against a Karma in lane. So that's Banner's stats. So it's pretty good early game. And Banner is a lot better than ZZ'Rot Portal now. Now, I'm not sure. I don't have ZZ'Rot up here anymore, so I can grab it really quick. Oh, I've actually got it right here. It's a lot better than ZZ'Rot. Now, ZZ'Rot was really good, I think, in Season 6, and particularly near the end of Season 6, but they nerfed it. So ZZ'Rot is similar. You get that Raptor Cloak early, which is nice. But you'll notice it costs 2,700 gold, not 2,200 gold. And that's a very big deal for supports. 500 gold is a lot of gold. This also does not have cooldown reduction on it. if you notice that. And that's really important. Banner does have cooldown reduction on it. Now, you don't get the cooldown reduction until you complete the item. It's just a bonus that you get for completing the item. But you do eventually get CDR. And CDR is very important because it allows you to use your crowd control a lot more as a tank, and that's very powerful. Almost every tank wants CDR, but CDR is a difficult stat to get for a lot of tanks, mostly because Locket of the Iron Solari does not give CDR. So they've tried to get better about this. They gave CDR to Knight's Vow. It used to not have CDR either, and they gave it to Zeke's. I can't remember if Zeke's always had it or not, but Knight's Vow was the big one. Because that was the best support item for a long time in Season 6. Tank support item, that is. And it didn't have CDR. And then Locket hasn't had CDR either since they changed it near the end of Season 6. So, the fact that ZZ'Rot is missing CDR is pretty rough. Now, it does have more outright resistances in terms of it does have, 110 total resist between magic resist and armor, which is good. It's missing the CDR, though, and this has 90. So basically, you're losing 20 armor and magic resist combined, and they had the same base regen in exchange for CDR. And in exchange for paying 500 more gold as well for ZZ'Rot, which is a lot of gold. So if you think about what this is missing, 25 magic resist times 18. And then this has 5 more armor, so minus 100. So ZZ'Rot Portal basically has 350 gold more of base stats. Remember, it has the same health regen, has the same point runner, but you're paying 500 more gold for it. So you're really losing 150 gold in terms of gold efficiency by getting ZZ'Rot in terms of defensive capabilities. Now, what about the active, though? So this has a lot of range. You can just turn it on your minion in your base, and if nobody stops it, it will push from your base all the way to a tower, especially if you put it on a cannon minion. And so that's a lot of range. So you can just turn it on your base and then go do something else, and it will just passively push your lane all the way down. ZZ'Rot Portal, on the other hand, has a very, very small range now. And I'll show you really quick what I'm talking about here. Now, they changed this at the end of Season 6 or the beginning of Season 7, sometime during the last preseason-ish type of era, they changed this. The range is very small. So ZZ'Rot Portal spits out all these little purple void creatures, and then they go, and if they get close to a tower, they blow up. Well, in Season 6, near the end of Season 6, and I know because I got this item all the time in Season 6, and I have an entire video about it. If you go back and look at my old videos, it's called Mastering the Map. That's one of the first guides that I made on the channel, and I talked a lot about this item. And that was the season that I got Diamond, and a lot of it was I ran ZZ'Rot Portal and other people didn't. I ran ZZ'Rot on Tom Kench and Janna primarily and played those champions a lot and ended up getting Diamond near the end of the season. And Nautilus near the end of the season as well. I played a lot of Nautilus support. But you would set it right here, and it could threaten this tower, this tier 2 tower from right here. And it was a persistent threat. So that means that they had to actually come out here and kill this thing if they wanted to deal with it. So it was very annoying. You could bait people by hiding in the bush. It would pull them really far out of position so you could engage the rest of their team. So it was a really good, annoying item. It used to also have 60-60 on the stats. So 60 armor, 60 magic resist. So it was a little bit more stat efficient. You'd get an extra 190 gold efficiency out of it. But the big one was the range. You could put it here. You could put it here, and it would kill there. It could go just about a lot of the lane. You could put it like right here and it would hit there. You could put it at your tower here. If you were mid lane, you could put it here and it would push into their tower. So it's a very pesky item. They nerfed the range considerably, so those void minions die a lot faster. Another thing is they would just keep stacking up on top of the enemy minion wave until it pushed into them. You'd get like 3 or 4 void minions just sitting there just hammering on the enemy wave, and because they lasted so long and they attacked so fast, it was highly likely you were going to get a lot of gold off of that. I mean, I had gotten like, almost 2,000 gold off of that item in some games because you got the gold if the little minions killed if the little voidlings killed the enemy minions. But now you can't even put it here to threaten this tower. Like, the minions will die before it even gets there. So you have to put it like right here, or even like right here, to be able to hit this tower. And another trick that you could do in the past with ZZ'Rot Portal was you could put it behind your tower, and it would push into the wave, and the minions had a lot more HP, so it would take multiple shots for like 2 attacks for someone to kill it. And so these minions would just stack up and make it really hard to push through that. So it was just really good base defense, and it was a really annoying base offense. So that's why it was good. That's been nerfed a lot, and it's not as good. And so now Banner, I think, is a better version of what the ZZ'Rot used to be. It has a lot more range. It's a lot cheaper at 2,200 gold, and it just has a better collection of stats because it has CDR on it, and it's just more cost efficient. So it's not as persistent of a threat. So if they come out and kill your Banner minion, then that's it. You know, it's not like a... But they could just come out and kill your Void Gate, too, when they see it. So I think that it's similar in function to how the old ZZ'Rot used to work, with just that minor variation that it has much longer range, but at the same time it's just one minion instead of a whole bunch of minions coming out. Okay, but if you're not sitting down here defending the ZZ'Rot, they're going to be able to kill it anyways, just like they would a Banner minion. Okay, so why is this important? What does it mean? So the Banner minion lasts until it dies. So someone has to go down there and deal with it, or it's going to push into the enemy tower. Okay, and you get all the gold. This is a gold generation item. Just like you start off buying Spell Thieves or Coin or Relic Shield, this is the same idea. It is a gold generation item. It pushes where other people won't push. So unless you're running a 1-3-1 comp, which means a split pusher in each lane and 3 people in the middle lane, there's going to be an empty lane. It's just kind of randomly doing its thing. Okay, and minions get wasted all the time in Diamond Under. In higher elo, it's okay if a wave is kind of pushing into you slowly because someone on your team is going to have teleport and they're going to go up and they're going to know the right time to go up and clear that wave up. Okay, and solo queue, below Diamond, they're not going to know that. And minions get wasted all the time. People won't even notice there's a wave stacking up, top lane or bottom lane, and then an enemy wave stacking up, and then you're going to lose all this gold towers, and your towers are going to take damage if you don't manage your wave properly. So in the kind of the mid to late game, it's almost always beneficial just to push it into the enemy. Okay, that puts pressure on them, and that allows you to threaten Baron or Dragon or ward up their jungle or do whatever you want. So it's all about putting pressure on those towers. Okay, especially if you're not really high elo, because if you're a challenger or something, you don't want the support taking all of your farm in one of the side lanes, because you're going to be able to go down there and get it for yourself because you're going to manage the macro properly. But you just need to get it in solo queue. If you're less than Diamond, don't feel bad about putting that banner there, because a lot of people just won't get it correctly. Now, you want to put it in the lane where if you do have a split pusher on your team, like if you do have a Trendemir or you have a Cinch or something like that, put it in the lane where they are not going. So, for example, a lot of times split pushers will stay top side of the map unless they have teleport, because that's where Baron is and they want to be around Baron. So a lot of times you can drop, let's say that you have your Trendemir up here trying to push in top so that maybe you guys can go threaten Baron or Cinch or Fiora or whatever. You can just drop your banner, and then your banner will push bot. So your banner pushes in whichever lane, or if your Fiora has teleport and wants to go bot to apply pressure, you can use banner top, and then just push it out top lane. So wherever your top laner is not, just put the banner in the other lanes. There's almost always a good lane for it. Or heck, if you're about to pressure Baron, you can just, as you're walking over there, just randomly drop your banner mid lane as you're walking, and that'll put extra pressure. Yeah, they'll probably clear it when it gets right here, but you're going to have vision of them, and you're going to see they're busy trying to clear up that banner, and then you'll know that you can go ahead and get the Baron, or at least get really good wards and prepare for them. So it gives you a lot of extra gold, and I've seen, like 1,500 gold in some games off of this thing. It gives you a lot of gold, especially if you get it early game, which is what I'm going to recommend, because it has a great build path with the Reju beads and the cloth armors you can build out of it. Gives you great great mobility, especially in terms of when you go to the shop running back, because as you run past these towers, you get that 20% movement speed. That's if the towers are dead or alive. And you know what's on the way when you're running back to lane? A lot of towers. And so that gives you a lot of speed to rotate and get back to your lane faster, which makes it ideal for that early game where getting every single drop of experience in lane is really important. So I think it's a great early game item, because it has good components. It lets you run back to lane faster. It allows you to put on that map pressure as soon as you complete it. and it gets that gold engine going so that you get some extra gold as support and you can fuel the rest of your build. So yeah, it offers great macro pressure. So we'll talk about the macro pressure and how you can use that a little bit more when I talk about why it's strong down here. Let's talk about why have people considered it weak. So why am I the only person probably that's advocating using Banner of Command other than like some, you know, random MOBA fire builds or something like that? Okay, so why is this a laughingstock item? Why, you know, are people going to question you if you get this item? It was the same thing when I got ZZ'Rot Portal. People would question it. They say, why are people getting that troll item? I had someone yesterday just like, oh, that's such a troll build, or, you know, why'd you get that stupid thing? You should have got, you know, whatever. You should have gotten Knight's Vow here. You should have gotten Locket. You should have gotten Mikhail's or whatever. People don't understand why this item's good. So why is that? It has been a bad item, and I've scoffed at this item for a long time too. But I've just recently realized how it changed over time and how the current meta and state of itemization for supports have changed, especially when we start thinking about runes, especially Ingenious Hunter and Zombie Ward, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, why that has changed. But what about Banner historically? Well, let's look at it historically really quick and see why it sucked. I mean, the main reason is it didn't have a good identity and it got outcompeted by other items. I'll give you the quick version here. You can go through, you know, if you go to this, you know, site that I linked, you can go through and kind of read the specifics on here. But basically, when it first came out, it was 50 AP, 30 armor. It had an HP regen aura, and it was 2,400 gold. So it's just kind of this mix of like, why do you want AP and armor on the same champion? I mean, there are situations like that, right? Like Zhonya's Hourglass, but it's got that Hourglass passive to kind of make that make sense. And it has more AP on it than 50. And it had like this HP regen aura. So it was just kind of a weird itemization, and there were just better choices back then. A lot of items were really, really strong back then, especially like Death Cap was super powerful back then. I think Rylai's was really strong back then. There were a lot of items that were much stronger back then than they are now. And so it just got outcompeted. There was just not a lot of reason to get that item on most champions. So then they tried to double down and say, okay, we're going to remove the armor. We're going to go all in. This is an AP item. We're going to make it 80 AP, 20% CDR, and we're going to make it 2,400 gold. And so then people were like, okay, this might actually be kind of good, but still it doesn't have penetration on it. It doesn't have any kind of slow effect. 80 AP is nice, but a lot of things had a lot of AP. I think Rylai's was like 100 AP back then. Death Cap, of course, was like 130 or 140 with plus 35% AP for like 3,600 gold, maybe even less. It was really, really good. So it just still got outcompeted by other AP items. Why would you get this dinky little item here when there were so many better AP items? Like, just the push didn't make sense. You know, on some, maybe on like Heimerdinger or something, but on most champions, it just didn't make sense. And then they decided, well, maybe it could be like this weird, like, hybrid items. And they're just like, let's throw all the stats on it. So it pretty much had 60 AP, 10% CDR, 200 health, 20 magic resist, and had an aura that gave your team 20 magic resist. So it had the old, like, Bulwark aura, or Legion aura. So that was just weird. That's what I'm calling Legion there. And so it was like designed to kind of be a split push item, or like just a push item that was good on mages with 60 AP, but also had HP and like magic resist on it. It's just this weird stat stick. It's like, why would you want that? It was so generalized and just bizarre. It didn't make sense. And then they decided to move it more towards a tank item. They said, okay, let's give it 400 mana, 60 armor. We'll give it magic resist and 10% CDR. So it's kind of like where it is now. But it's like, why do you need 400 mana on most tanks? That's so much, you know? It's so much mana. And the itemization was just awkward as heck. It sucked. Like, you don't, like, it had Glacial Shroud, which was nice. And it was okay. And this was near the end of Season 6. But you don't need that much mana on most tanks. Like, there are a handful of tanks that might want that much mana, but you just don't need that much. It's just a waste of stats. And it got outcompeted at ZZ'Rot at this point. It didn't really have a clear identity, but now it kind of does. So the stats now are a lot more cohesive. They're like, okay, this is a split push roaming item. It's clear because now it has point runner and it has this 125% mana regen. So this extra movement speed allows you to rotate a lot faster. So now you can go place this banner in a side lane and get out of there and get back to your team a lot faster. And I think that's much better thematically with this items. They have clarified this is a light tank item that allows you to apply side lane pressure. Like, that's what it is. That's its identity. And it offers that extra macro pressure. So now it finally has an identity. At least. Now, not everyone's going to want to get this all the time, but at least it has a clear theme about it that separates it and distinguishes it from something like a Knight's Vow, or something like a Locket, or something like a Zeke's Convergence. We'll talk about all those items in a second, how they stack up versus Banner Command. But I think Riot's done a much better job of creating a clear identity for lots of items. So there are very few items now that it's just like 100% unequivocally you rush this item as support. There are some. Obviously, Ardent Censer was a main offender for a lot of the latter part of last season, and then Redemption was similar. A lot of that came down to Windspeaker's Blessing being a ridiculously powerful mastery. But they've done a really good job of moving towards this balance of choices for different situations. Okay, and now Banner has a clear identity, and it is a viable choice. Okay, so that's the problem, is it never had a clear identity in the past. Is it an AP split push item with a team magic resist aura? Is it a heavy mana tank split push item? It was just goofy. And it was just outcompeted, as I mentioned before. Locket, before they nerfed Locket, or changed Locket, I should say, near the end of Season 6, everyone had to get that item all the time. It gave a magic resist aura, it gave a ton of health, it gave CDR. It was just like insanely good. If you kind of look at the history of Locket here, the old stats for 2,500 gold, you got 400 health, 100% base mana regen, 20 magic resistance, 10% cooldown reduction, and you gave your entire team 15 magic resist. That's like 75 MR. In a team fight, plus 10% CDR, plus 20 magic resist, 100% base health regen. I think that's 300 gold worth. 400 health is like, I'm going to say 1,100 gold. I don't know exactly offhand, but it's something close to that. 1,100 gold. Boom. I mean, it was just insanely good. And this was the super nerfed version of it. Before this, when it was like 2750. Wait, what is the shield? Aura health removed. Magic resist reduced from 15 to 20. I don't even remember what the shield was. Did it have the active? I thought the active shield was a new thing. Okay. Did it have the shield on top of that? I can't even remember. It was ridiculous. Okay, it was ridiculous for a very, very long time. It used to give armor and like this huge magic resist shield to everybody. It used to be called like Bulwark of the whatever. Let me see. It used to basically be this item, like Runic Bulwark, for a long time. I mean, look at this thing, 2150, so it's less than 2,200 gold. I mean, just look at the text on this thing. 300 health, 20 armor, 30 magic resist, and everybody got 10 armor, 25 magic resist, and 10 health regeneration. And minions got 50% of that bonus. They got 50% bonus. So it pushed minions when you were near it, and it just was this ridiculously massive stat stick. Just gave insane resists, armor, and all this other crap. It was just insanely broken. And then it changed into Locket, and that was basically, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it was just outcompeted for a long time. And then the split push items, after Locket got nerfed enough, split push actually kind of became a thing when ZZ got buffed enough as well near the end of Season 6. Okay? But things have changed in Season 7. So ZZ'Rot has been gutted. Most strong support items have been nerfed. So Redemption, Locket, Ardent Censer, and Knight's Vow have all been nerfed. and it's created a lot more viable build options. And new runes have created new opportunities as well. So go ahead and talk about that. So what's happened here? Okay, so the new runes, one of the biggest things of the new rune system is it removed Windspeaker's Blessing. And a lot of people don't understand just how good this thing was. I've talked about it a lot in past videos. But it not only gave 10% plus healing and shielding, but it also gave a lot of resistances to anyone that you healed or shielded. So it gave them a lot of magic resist and a lot of armor. Okay, so it was very, very strong stat stick. And this pretty much made enchanters just like really good for the entirety of Season 7. There was a moment like really early until like 7.5 or so when AP supports were good. It was all like ZZ'Rot Karma. But after that, from 7.5 onward, the best supports were pretty much always enchanters, especially in solo queue. Janna was really good since 7.5. People didn't figure out about her. They didn't figure out that she was that good until, like 7.15 or so. Then everyone's like, oh my god, she's good, let's ban her. But she's good way, way before that. But that was a major thing. And the issue with that is shielding and healing scales better than pretty much any other support thing in the game because it benefits everyone on your team. And it synergizes so well with other stats, particularly AP. So when you start getting AP on a champion like Janna, and then you get plus healing and shielding, those two stacking together just adds an insane amount of utility to a lot of these champions, like Janna, like Lulu, like Sona, and they just get out of control if they get 2 or 3 of these plus healing and shielding items. Now, I think they might actually be nerfing heal and shield items. I've seen it on Surrender at 20, maybe at the first patch of Season 8, a little bit, like taking off 2%. Although that's quite a lot. If you take 2% off of all these items, change it from 8% to, or 10% to 8%, that's 20% less. But anyways, we'll see what happens there. But they scaled really, really hard because they start off with wind speakers, then they get redemption, that'd be 20%, and then if they get Mikhail's, it's 40%, then Ardent Censored make it 50%. And that's so much better than personal tank stats. Because if you have a lot of personal tank stats, yeah, you can be an unkillable Alistar, but you know what? They just ignore you and go around you because you're not going to have enough damage to matter. So there aren't really a lot of supports that are tanks that do a ton of damage, especially later in the game where people have to focus fire you down. They can just run around you. Whereas, tanky top laners and tanky jungles and things like that get enough gold to where they can be a threat and be a tank. As a support, it's rare for that to happen. Maybe like Trundle or something if you build a couple of damage items. And Leona, obviously, early game. But in general, that's the problem, is tanks, they have their crowd control, and that's always useful, but personal tank stats, just at a certain point, after like 1 or 2 items, just don't matter much anymore. Once they don't kill you in one shot, they're just not going to focus fire you out a lot of times. And so it's much more beneficial to be able to buff up your allies with the plus healing and shielding. So anyways, that got dialed back a little bit when wind speakers got knocked out the door. Now there is another thing called Revitalize, which is 5% always and an extra 10% if somebody's low. First thought. But people don't get that. A lot of utility supports won't get that. It's in the resolve tree, and it's just there just isn't anything else that's really good for utility supports. So a lot of them just won't get it. So effectively, there is no wind speakers on everyone except for sometimes Rakan. Okay, Aftershock is something else. It's super powerful, which has made tanks very, very relevant. The sorcery tree has been nerfed numerous times, and so the resolve tree is very good right now, especially with Aftershock. So that makes tanks also pretty good. And so tank supports were not good pretty much all of Season 7. Occasionally you'd see 1 or 2 flash in there and be okay. Like Tarek had his moments occasionally. There are a couple of cameos by tank supports, but by and large, it was a lot of utility supports for much of the season, and then also early in the season, some AP supports, ZZ'Rot, Karma, stuff like that. Okay, except for things like Tom Kench maybe, but you're not picking Tom Kench because he's tanky. You're picking Tom Kench because he's anti-CC. He's anti-Ashe. basically. So Tom Kench, showed up sometimes as a counter pick, but by and large, tank supports were bad because they just couldn't keep up scaling wise with enchanters. Well, now after all these nerfs to enchanters, both their items and directly to some of the strongest enchanters like Sona, like Janna, and the buffs with Aftershock, tanks are finally ready to shine again. So what are some of the best tank items? Okay, well let's look at a few of them here. So if you look at Knight's Vow, it has been nerfed several times, but the baseline stats get 40 armor, 10% CDR, 250 health, 1700 gold value. If you are near your partner, which you usually are, then you get an extra 400. So it's like a 24 or a 2100 gold value. Okay, if you include the speed, if you're walking towards your partner, then it's 2700. And then for that, you're getting passive of 12% damage redirected and 12% spell vamp. So it makes you personally marginally tanky. It's a decent tank stat after the nerfs. It used to be a very strong tank stat line, but they've nerfed the health on it. I think they took off like 200 health or something off of it total. They've nerfed it down quite a lot. It used to be 400 health, I'm pretty sure. Maybe even more than that. So yeah, it had the cooldown reduction here. The cost went up. And here they knocked off 100 health and reduced the cost by 100. And here they just reduced the cost by 50. So yeah, it's down 150 health. So anyways, it's pretty good. Now the 12% damage redirected is good. I mean, that could protect your AD carry from assassins. It's a staple. A lot of tank supports will get this item, and then the damage that your champion, your partner deals, heals you. So this is probably the best standard rush item on most supports. And this basically says, if you get this item, I want to protect one important person on my team in team fights. I think they're in danger of dying to assassins. So that's why I want to get this. Okay, or they do a ton of damage, and I think they can heal me while I stick in there and do a lot of damage. And it has health on it as well, which is pretty rare for a while. Now, it doesn't have a lot. It has 250, but it does have health on it, which is rare for tank support items. Like standard, like good quality tank support items. So it has that going for it. It has health and armor on the same item. Good combo. Pretty good item. Okay, Locket. Locket is 2200. It has been nerfed several times. And the issue... Did I lock it up here? Yeah. The issue with Locket is that they've made it to where it's pretty bad in the early game. So they have nerfed the stats on it a lot. And now it scales based on your bonus health. Not your total health, your bonus health. So it's really best after you already have a plus health item. So what a lot of people will do is they'll get Knight's Vow. They'll upgrade their gold item into like Eye of the Equinox, and then they'll buy Locket. So you'll go, Knight's Vow, Eye of the Equinox, Locket, very standard build. Then you've got your 2 health items, you've got your Locket. Nice. You get good protection of a single target, and you get a pretty good team shield. So it's a good item to get as like a second or third item after you already have some health under your belt. Okay, and it still is very good. And you'll want this in a lot of situations on a lot of tanks. No doubt, very good item. Not a rush item, but a good item. Okay, and once again, this is for team fighting. So this is for protecting individuals. This is for team fighting shield. Now keep in mind, this has a pretty, not a super long cooldown, but a 90-second cooldown, so it's only going to be useful in concentrated bursts, usually in team fights. And the personal stats on it are trash. So it only gives you 1680 gold worth of personal tank stats, whereas this gave you 2200 gold, 2100 gold. All right, so this is bad as a first item, but great as a team fight item in the mid game after you already have 1 or 2 health items. Okay, Zeke's Convergence is another one. Now, a lot of people don't get this item because it gets crowded out by Locket and Knight's Vow, but this is a good damage steroid for an AD carry that's fed that you can get as a support. So if we look at Zeke's, its stats are actually pretty good. The baseline stats here has 60-30, so 60 armor, 30 magic resist, and 10% cooldown reduction, so the same thing as Banner. Now, Locket is the opposite. It's important to note this only has 30 armors. That's not going to give you much protection at all from towers or Baron or Dragon. So you're not going to be able to siege things very well with this item. Now, the magic resist is good, but you're not going to be able to siege that well. Now, Zeke's does have mana on it too, which is nice. A little bit of mana sprinkled in is pretty good on a lot of tanks because, you know, as Thresh or as Rakan or sometimes even as Leona, in extended rotations, extended fights, you can find yourself running out of mana if you don't have a mana item because you're not often going to get a mana regen item either. You know, your Relic Shield doesn't have mana regen on it. You're probably not going to be buying Redemption. Now, Rakan can buy Redemption, and it's really good on him. So he may not need Zeke's as much, although it's still okay on him. And what it basically does, what you're paying for here, so it has the strongest base stats of all the items that we've talked about so far, in terms of just personal sort of utility and survivability. It does have the CDR on it too, which is very coveted as well. Casting your ultimate near your ally, so whenever you use your ultimates, this is best on low ultimate champions. Rakan has a pretty low ultimate. Leona has a low ultimate. And this basically says we need extra damage on this one person. So this Twitch is super fed. I want to deck this guy out and do a lot of damage. Or this Vayne is really fed. I want to deck her out and get her to do a lot of damage. So it needs to be someone who auto attacks a lot. Particularly someone who has a lot of attack speed. So people who are going attack speed builds like Vayne, Twitch, Kog'Maw. It's best on those champions. Not as great on Ezreal. It's okay. But this is the line that you need to know. 50% bonus magic damage over 2 seconds on autos. And they buff this to be 25% on hit. And this is something that a lot of people overlooked. I did not overlook it. I mentioned this. So they lowered the cost too. It used to be 2,400. This is very recent. They lowered it to 2,250. Now, did they... They didn't mention it here. But there was a minor buff, or it was actually a pretty major buff, that was on one of the patch notes that this is actually not mentioning in the patch history here. But it used to only do like 17% on hit damage. It was always 50% over 2 seconds, but they buffed it to go from 17% on hit to 25 on hit. So what that means is, because over 2 seconds, it just refreshes if you auto attack again. It's a stupid stat. I don't know why they do that. But it's basically 25% on hit damage. And I don't know how this interacts with crit. Bonus magic damage. I assume if you crit, it does not interact with that. But still, 25 bonus magic damage on hit, 25%. So if your ally has 200 AD and they auto attack, you're going to be getting an extra 50 on hit damage, which is pretty good. I mean, that's not as good as like Ardent Sensors on hit used to be. Yeah, that's 5 to 20 on hit damage. It used to be 25 flat out on hit damage on that item, which made it ridiculously good, but now it's much lower. However, this is still 25% on hit damage. So early game, if they just have 100 AD, then it's going to give you 25 on hit damage, but later in the game, it's going to give you, maybe 50 on hit damage, which is really good, especially if they have Hurricane, because it's going to apply that to all of the Hurricane bolts. So, someone like a Callista, someone like a Twitch, it's going to be very good who runs Hurricane. And then you get a slow field and you do 40 magic damage per second for up to 10 seconds. So it's decent. But the main reason that you get this is to give that extra, give them that extra 50% bonus magic damage. And then you do a little bit incidentally. So it's just a decent tank item where you just want to be a tank and get some good tank stats and then buff up your AD carry to do a bunch of extra damage. So if that Vayne is 5-0 in your lane, this could be a good consideration, but most people probably won't get this most of the time. It's a very niche item for an AD carry that's ahead. And then we come to Banner of Command. Okay, so it has 2381 base stats, and then 3171 if you include the speed bonus base stats. So it has the best base stats of all. Then you get lane pressure, plus gold income, a lot of gold. I can't stress that enough. If you get this item early, you will get a lot of gold with this item. Okay, like a good chunk, at least 500. If the game goes to 25 minutes, and a lot of times it'll be in the thousands. So there's a lot of gold. Okay, so what? And then you get lane pressure as well. Now, lane pressure is massive. Lane pressure wins games. If you think about why are most games won and lost, it's because of map management and lane pressure. So what typically happens, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you've ever played League of Legends, is most games of League of Legends, a lot of them, especially if no one's shot calling and if people just don't know about macro, some team will get a little bit ahead, early on. Maybe it's your team. Let's assume it's your team this time. So let's say you get a little bit ahead. Maybe you get all 3 of the first towers. They only have like 1 of your towers. And then you're kind of sitting around figuring out, well, what are we supposed to do now, right? Like, you can't go do Baron. You're not strong enough. Or Baron maybe is not even up yet. There's no dragon. So what does your team do? Do you just walk around and, like, hope that you pick somebody off? Do you just, like, gather up 5 in middle and try to siege? Maybe they have an Anivia or a Ziggs or something. You just can't get through that. So what do you do? I mean, usually what happens is people just wander around. And just whichever team has better vision and like has better skirmishing wins. They just find people, pick them off, and kill them. Someone on your team just pushes up to here. Then you've got the Kha'Zix, runs around, picks them off here. Or someone like overextends down here. And then you've got, the Vayne and the Alistar, come running out of here and pick them off. It's just a clown fiesta is what people call it, where everyone just runs around and gets caught and killed. Well, traditional sort of team fight items aren't going to be that useful there with Locket, right? Because if everyone's spread out kind of doing their own thing because there's no like core objective, Locket's nice if you're like with somebody, and it's just like a little 2-on-2, but it's not really going to pressure to help you win the game. Like if your team actually groups up for some reason, even though there's maybe not an objective, if they actually group up and you can win a fight, get like 3 people dead, then you can push towers, and that's great. But a lot of times in that mid game, there's not going to be a lot of team fights, especially if Dragon's down or if Baron's unavailable. Then it's just going to be a lot of smaller scale skirmishes. So yes, Locket is good, but Locket doesn't always help you push and close out games. And then, the same thing with Zeke's. Like, Zeke's is good if you're near your AD carry, or Knight's Vow is good if you're near your AD carry and trying to do stuff, but, you may not always be near your AD carry. They might want to split and do something bottom or just, like, try to farm up the bot lane, and you're not going to be there. Now, you can put your Knight's Vow on somebody else in that case, but either way, it's not going to put on necessarily any extra map pressure. Whereas Banner, if you put Banner in a side lane, eventually that's going to deal damage to towers, and it's going to force one of them to come down there, as I mentioned before. And now you can take advantage of that because you know where one of them are and you know they're going to be busy. So if you see their AD carry and support go down here to clean up this banner, then oh god, we can engage here, we can fight this, or like we can fight them over here, or we can push mid tower because we see one bottom and we can force a 5v4 at their tower. Especially if we're running an engaged champion like a Leona or an Alistar who really doesn't care about tower damage after you get an item or two. And Banner does have 60 armor on it, which is nice. And if you see a couple people bottom, especially with no teleport, sometimes you can just dive middle, force a few kills, and then take the tower. So it just allows you to direct where the enemy has to go, and then you're going to know that you have that window of time for a good opportunity. You could communicate that to your team. So you can say, look, I'm going to put a banner bot to say, I bannered bot, come bait Baron, or I bannered bot, let's go take middle, or let's go take top. And so you can force the enemy to be where you want them to be, and unless they have a teleport and it's, up and ready to go, and they're paying attention, then you're going to be able to, create pressure. Now, if they have a teleport, you can put it in the other lane. So if there's a Shin split pushing bottom, you see he's down there, he has teleport and he has his ultimate, just put the banner top. Then just go tell your Fiora or whatever to go match the Shin. Banner's pushing top. They're at a stalemate bottom. Someone's going to have to go over there and deal with that who's not going to have teleport. And when they do, boom, you engage on the rest of them. So it just allows you to dictate the terms of the meta. It allows you to put the enemy where you want to put them and to set up to make something happen. And that's what helps you break out of this stalemate in the mid game when everyone's just running around Clown Fiesta looking at each other. No one knows like what they're supposed to be doing. No one knows where the enemy is or what they're going to do next. But now you can force them to do what you want them to do, which is go deal with that banner. So that is the power of a split push item. And this is not something that is immediately obvious. It doesn't have a flashy, huge shield. And that, you know, it doesn't, Knight's Vow's not that flashy, but just everybody gets it and just assumes it's really good. And it is pretty good in a lot of situations. But because you're never going to see banner in a lot of pro builds, you're never going to see them in challenger games or pro games, typically, and people just don't understand what map pressure is, then there's a lot of ridicule for banner. And it's the same thing for ZZ'Rot Portal because it's a thinking item. You're planning 3 steps ahead. You're saying, okay, I'm setting a banner here, the wave's here right now. You know, maybe in 1 minute it's going to be over here and we're going to be able to make a play. So you just call that out to your team. So you're thinking 3 steps ahead of the enemy at that point, and you just have to communicate and use that properly. And it can be really powerful. And your allies will never understand a lot of times, and that's fine. That's what supporting is all about. They're not going to know how they won or what happened. You'll just win. So let's say that, and this happens all the time. You know, I know we're about to contest Dragon or something. The wave's like right here. As I'm walking down to contest Dragon, I just put a banner minion right here. It starts pushing. Then I go down here, fight over Dragon. Okay, we win the fight. And, you know, after we take the Dragon, we still have a couple of people left. And now the wave's right here because I already have a banner pushing it. Where it's like, oh, sweet, there's a wave. And then we go over there, take this tower. Or even if we lose, let's say we lose the Dragon and the wave was right here. Let's say we lose this fight. Now, typically the enemy would be able to run up here where this wave is and get our tower. But because it's already pushed down here, they may not be able to get there in time. And we might spawn first. So it's just little things like that people don't notice. After you win a fight, your wave will just magically be ready. It'll just magically be at a tower. This happened in the last game today where I put a banner minion top on the way to contest Baron. We beat him up, had a Baron wave. By the time we finished it, I pinged down here. The wave was even right here before the fight. I set up a banner. By the time we won the fight, cleaned up the Baron, the wave was already right here. Huge stacked wave. And then I put another banner on top of it. And then we just went in with all these Baroned up minions, crashed this, and sacked 2 of their towers before they could even get up. Now, bannered up Baron minions, that is pushing power. That will slam towers. If you get one of those melee minions in there, just hack it away on them with all the Baron, empowered Baron and banner empowered. That does a lot of tower damage. So it's something that a lot of people just won't notice and they won't even appreciate, but you'll know it because you're doing it. Just how powerful that is to have the wave where you want it to be when you want it to be there. So that's extremely strong. And no other item offers this. Like, this is just kind of like, a lot of these are team fight oriented items, right? Like you're in a team fight or you're skirmishing with somebody and it just gives you some extra personal stat buffs and it looks good. But how do you put a price on winning the game? You know, minion waves create so much pressure and towers are how you win games. And this is the only viable item right now that allows you to do that. So it has a really good early game build path. You're not sacrificing any personal tank stats, really. It's the same personal tankiness as most of these items. Locket is not personal tanky at all, but it's the same as Zeke's. It's the same as Knight's Vow. It gives you a lot of the same level of personal tank stats. It just gives you more utility with the speed. It gives you gold income, and it gives you macro pressure instead of team fight pressure. Now, are you going to be a little bit behind in a team fight if you do happen to find one of those rare, 5v5s? Sure. You'll be a little behind if the enemy tank has a locket, and you don't, but not as a first item because locket is garbage first item. So, they're going to have Vow plus locket, and by that time, because you've had a banner rolling, you're going to be pretty far ahead in gold. So you might even have banner, and then you might have Knight's Vow and locket. You maybe not earned that much gold by then, but you're already going to be ahead of the gold race by then. And a lot of fights aren't determined by these little stats, if you think about it. Like, yeah, the Knight's Vow, the 12% damage redirected is nice. The 12% vamp is nice. But think about how often fights are usually won by whoever engages first and gets a clean CC and picks somebody off is going to win the fight. It's not going to matter the 12%. Like, obviously it's nice, but whoever goes in and picks off somebody else is more than likely going to win the fight anyways. So that 12% you know, where your AD carry walks away with 12% of their health left at the end. It happens, but it's rare. It's rare. It's a lot more rare than a banner being able to guaranteed put map pressure on and guaranteed like force an enemy to go deal with that most of the time. So this is just a lot more consistent pressure, a lot more consistent results off of this. So, are these items good? Absolutely. Will most tanks get these items a lot? Absolutely. But I think that Banner offers a lot more to the table than people think, and it's because it's one of the only macro items, and why most people lose solo queue games is they don't have good macro. They don't know what to do with their lead most of the time, or they don't know how to hold off enemies when they're behind to stall and just farm. You know, they'll say just farm, but they don't know what that means. They don't know how to get good macro pressure so that they can just farm. This helps you with that. So it has great early game components. You know, I would argue it has the best early game components of anything. I mean, Locket feels bad to buy early because you have to get 2 null magic mantles, which is awful in lane. Unless you're against something like a ZZ'Rot, it's just not a very good buy because it doesn't help protect you from towers, or the enemy AD carry, or the Kha'Zix running around. You know, there's a lot of AD out there these days, and so buying that much magic resist feels really bad early on. Knight's Vow is pretty good. You get a Kindle Gem, 10%. CDR early with some health is good. Chain Vest is pretty solid. And you're not waiting around too long to complete Knight's Vow. So Knight's Vow has some pretty decent components. But I would still argue that Banner has the best. Zeke's is okay. I mean, getting the... Zeke's is okay. Getting the mana early can be hit or miss depending on your champion. You know, having to get that null magic. You can put it off, though. You can get Sapphire, Double Cloth. It's decent. If your champion really needs the mana, it's okay. But this doesn't... It does give you the CDR early, too, which is good. And they did lower the cost of Glacial Shroud a while ago, too, which was really nice. But I'm still going to say that Banner has the best early game stuff because it has a Rejuve bead and because it gives you that Raptor Cloak that I talked about before. Point Runner is so good. Every time you base, it allows you to run back out. You'll be surprised how much faster you are running back out to get back to your lane or to rotate mid lane or to get ready for Dragon or whatever. That 20% movement speed is a very, very big deal, especially early in the game when you're backing a lot to buy items and to refill your wards. It's really nice. Getting that Rejuve bead, I explained it before, is so good against like Nami, Sona, Karma. These things are going to poke you out as a tank early on. That second Rejuve bead is clutch. And the 2 cloth armors, of course, are very, very nice. Early stat lines. They allow you to tower dive, give you better protection against AD carry, better protection against the Kha'Zix or the Xin Zhao or whatever AD they have in the jungle. Really, really nice. And then, of course, once you complete it, it has a very powerful active that you can always use. You don't have to wait around for a team fight. You can always turn that bad boy on and have it do something useful on cooldown on the map. So I think it has the best early game components, especially because it starts giving you gold income once you complete it. So excellent early game components, excellent ability once it's completed. Great backing, excellent lane pressure. I talked about that before. You're not going to see it in pro games, but in Platinum and lower where people don't know what to do, they don't even know what the word macro is most of the time. And I say that as someone who plays a lot of a lot of Platinum games. It's going to be really strong. And a lot of people in these games just won't even take teleport. Like, they either won't take teleport or they don't know what to do with teleport. They don't know how to save it, so they just randomly teleport to lane or whatever. So they're not going to deal with it. You're going to use that banner bot lane, and, you know, the AD carry is going to go down there and try to farm it up when the Baron's up at like 30 minutes. I'll guarantee you they'll do it. Or the jungler is going to go down there. You're going to see that jungle Kha'Zix down there, like trying to clear up that banner minion, and you're going to be sitting around Baron, you know, and you're just going to be like, oh, there's the Kha'Zix. Let's go do this. And you're just going to go fight it and win. Or they turn and try to like stop you, and you turn around and kill them because you have a 4v5 fight because the enemy jungler tried to go down here and clear this banner. Or the ADC's clearing banner bot lane. So, or the Fiora with Ignite instead of teleport is down there clearing bot lane. There's just so many permutations where you can pull people so far out of position to do useful things because they just won't even think about it. Like, People don't even know what the minion does. Like, I swear, I see so many games where I turn on the banner minion, and it's just hilarious. Like, I saw this one game with a Ziggs. It was sitting right here, a Baron empowered minion, and it was just me sitting there. Everyone else had died, and it was just Ziggs and I chilling there, and I couldn't get up any closer, and it was just the cannon minion. I swear to God, he threw like 5 spells at it. He threw like 3 Qs. He dropped his satchel charge on it to try to knock it back, and he threw his little whatever it is, his little circle of grenades, or what, his minefield, on the ground to try to kill it. It's immune to magic. And he didn't even pick up on that the first couple of times he hit it. It is immune to magic. And he kept casting spells on it over and over again. He used like a third of his mana bar trying to kill it with magic. People don't even know what this item does because they just don't see it a lot. And so you have that element of surprise where, yeah, a lot of... Now, that is very relevant, though. If you have a minion like that that's trying to push against something like an Anivia or something that's like a Ziggs, like, and that thing is able to stay on the tower and they can't clear it, that means that tower gets reduced armor, which means your team can clear it a lot faster. It's one of the huge power things about something like an Anivia or an Azir or these other wave clear things. Mostly they're magic damage. And the real threat is you don't want to take tower shots. And the, obviously, and the tower is going to have a lot of extra armor because it's going to have no minions near it typically. Well, with this thing that can't be killed by magic, you can get in there and your AD carry can get a few more shots on the tower each wave, or at least during this wave, because it's going to have lower armor and, you know, it's going to be able to soak tower shots. So that is not irrelevant that it's immune to magic. It's very nice against those types of champions. But the bottom line is people don't know what it does. They're not going to react around it, and they're going to do exactly what you want them to do most of the time, which is get pulled out of position and give your team windows to expose their mispositioning by engaging on the enemy team when they're going to be down a player. So people don't track this. They're not going to know it's coming down the lane. As I mentioned before, pro players will probably notice it. They'll say, okay, the support pop banner of command, that's weird. We see they used banner up here on this lane, so it's probably going to be down here in a minute. You know, Fiora, do you have teleport? Yeah, I've got it. Okay, go deal with this, and then we'll deal with the rest of the team. You know, there's not going to be that kind of communication going on. It's going to be like someone looks at the minimap, if they look at the minimap, and say, oh my god, why are there so many minions there? And they're just going to run down there and say, they're just going to see all the, you know, the gold, I was going to say like the dollar signs, but like the gold bags in their eyes. They're going to say, oh my god, it's a lot of gold. And they're going to run down there to get it without even thinking, oh my god, Baron's up. I don't have teleport. So people just will not play around it correctly. And so even though you're not going to see this in challenger games, you're not going to see it in pro games, it's very good, especially under diamond. So just keep that in mind. Just because you don't see it in high level games does not mean that it's not good in lower level games. Okay. And by lower level, I mean even in platinum, it's probably still good in low diamond, to be honest. It's a very powerful item. Now, how are we looking here? A minute 2. Okay, we're almost done. We've almost got it to about an hour here. Another thing that's a really powerful interaction is Ingenious Hunter plus Zombie Ward. I've talked about this a ton, but basically, do we have the runes? I don't remember if I have the runes up or not. Yes, here we go. Okay. So I'm recommending these runes on almost all supports except for AP supports as your secondary. And that's Ingenious Hunter is the first one. So you get 10% item active CDR and then 6% per kill or assist that you get. Okay, so that's up to 40%. This applies to trinkets. Okay, so that's the big kicker, is this applies to trinkets. And then Ruby Sightstone is another part of this. This gives you an additional 20% reduction. So you can get up to 60%. If you take the Cosmic whatever that gives you 5% from the inspiration tree, you can do that, but that's really gimmicky. Like, that would force you to go into inspiration just to get that 5%. And a lot of times, depending on the support, that's probably not going to be a good idea. But you can get 60% comfortably without doing anything really that gimmicky. And that gives you 500 health, and it's just very cost efficient by itself. I mean, you're upgrading from a normal Sightstone from 150. So you're getting 350 HP for 800 gold at this point. So you're getting 931 gold worth of health for 800 gold. You know, that's 116% gold efficient. So that's nice. And you get the 20%, which is difficult to calculate, but is really good. And you get a 4th ward. So Ruby Sightstone is extremely good. A lot of people don't get this item because they want to upgrade their gold item. But I'm telling you, this thing is the real deal. It's very, very gold efficient. Especially for a warding item. If you look at most warding items, they are trash in efficiency. Like, look at this thing. 50% gold efficient. Garbage. Because you're paying for the wards. So you're getting an extra 4th ward off of this. And it's really gold efficient. And it has a really cool item active. So that's really good. And obviously pairs together very well with Ingenious Hunter. So you get up to 60%. So late game, typically a trinket is going to be, I believe it's 75-second cooldown. That brings it down to a 30-second cooldown. And your sweeping lens trinket goes from, it's active for 10 seconds, and the cooldown starts from whenever you activate it. So you turn it on, it sweeps for 10 seconds. It's been ticking from 30 seconds the whole time you turn it on. So now it's only 20 seconds. So that means that basically you're only going to have 20 seconds of downtime per 30 seconds when you can't sweep. So your sweeper is going to be going for 1/3 of the time. You can just spam it over and over and over again. You will find all of the wards. So that right there is already an extremely powerful interaction. The fact that you basically have a permanent oracles just about at your disposal. If anyone remembers the old oracles elixir and just how ridiculous that was, you get all of that with just this one rune and getting a ruby sightstone, which is pretty good anyways. So that's super strong. And every time you kill a ward with the sweeping trinket, you get a zombie ward, which gives you an additional ward for 3 minutes. It's really good. I mean, there are some games where with this combination, Ingenious plus Zombie, I've placed like 100 wards or something in a 35-minute game, including the zombie wards. It's insane vision control. It's so strong for vision control. And you know what's really good for vision control? Rotations, because then you're going to know exactly where they are. So if you have all these zombie wards, you know, all up in their jungle, because you just keep sweeping, clearing out all this stuff, using your normal wards. You just have wards everywhere. That helps you with banner, because that lets you know, okay, they're not grouped up, they're all split up, so I'm safe to go banner, just tell my team to chill, go drop a banner, run back, and then you might even see their AD carry rotating through the jungle, and you can go ahead and start doing that Baron before they even show up on the bot wave, because you're going to have good vision. Or you can say, hey, their AD carry's down here doing this bot wave, and their jungler's right here doing this jungle. Let's just go pick off the jungler because I know they're not grouped because I have good vision. So that extra vision just helps you make decisions so much better. So Zombie plus Ingenious is really strong. I've talked about it in a lot of videos. But you know what else is really good with that? Banner of Command, right? Because Banner usually has a 2-minute cooldown. So that's 120 seconds. But now it's 48 seconds. And this is key. This is one reason that Banner hadn't been good that much in the past. Another reason among the ones I've already mentioned is that it doesn't apply consistent pressure. So yeah, you can throw a banner every 2 minutes. That's like every 4 minion waves, because minion waves spawn every 30 seconds. And they'll go clean it up, but then they know they're going to have, you know, an extra minute 30 seconds where you're not going to banner them again. But now with a 48-second timer, that means you can drop a banner every wave and a half instead. So that is consistent pressure. So they just killed one banner and they're like, whew, thank God we dealt with that crap. And then there's another one already coming at them. Sometimes you even have two. I mentioned earlier, I put one here. We fought the enemy, beat him at Baron. The wave was already pushed up to here by the time we were done. We ran over here. I dropped another one. And then we had two bannered up Baron minions and just completely sliced through everything. Just got this, inhibitor, and 2 towers in 1 death timer. And a lot of that's because those banner minions are so hardcore, especially with Baron minions, especially if you put it on the melees. They just absolutely just cut right through towers. So the fact that it's up every 48 seconds is a really big deal, because that means you can put consistent pressure over and over again with this banner. Creates a real problem. And then, of course, Ingenious plus Zombie is good with other things, too. It's very good with Locket. You know, you get Locket down to, like, 30 seconds. You can get Redemption down to 48 seconds. You can get Knight's Vow down to like 48 seconds. So it's really good with pretty much all of these items. But it's particularly good with banner because it allows even more consistent lane pressure and more gold, you know, with the gold income. More pressure, more gold, more everything. It's great. Isn't that right, Sadie? She's like looking at me like, dude, shut up. It's time to go to sleep. So which champions are best with banner? So champions that roam well and benefit from tank stats. So mostly Rakan, Thresh, Ali, Blitz, Leo are kind of the best ones I can think of. Tahm Kench is another one who's really good because Tahm Kench actually can use his ultimate to get back to his team in case they get into a stupid fight while he's trying to banner. So Tahm Kench is actually quite good. I'll put Tahm Kench up here because his ultimate lets him go place that banner without being too far out of position. Okay, so two of the best ones I think are Thresh and Rakan. And the reason for this is they don't use Knight's Vow very well because they only get a 6% benefit. So they count as ranged, which means that it's not 12% damage redirected, it's only 6. So this passive becomes much, much more weak. And it's not a great item compared to these other ones without this passive. Right? The tank stats are lower. The baseline tank stats are going to be lower than Zeke's, and they're lower than Banner. Okay, so the only reason you would get this over those two is because you want that really good single target protection. Well, Rakan and Thresh, it doesn't work as well for them because they count as ranged. So they're already not good with Knight's Vow, which means they're not going to have a health item as early that they can rush to get Locket. And Locket's not a good rush item because you're just not going to have enough levels to make the shield worth it if you rush it a lot of the time. And its baseline tank stats suck. So that's really going to hurt you bad early on when you're not going to have a lot of other tank stats to go around. You can go Zeke's on them, but like Thresh has a pretty long cooldown, and your AD carry is just not going to have enough attack speed items and enough AD to really make Zeke's worth it, because Zeke's scales with your AD carry, basically, because it's a percentage of their AD is 25% of their AD is bonus magic damage, and you know they need to have attack speed so they can actually attack at a reasonable rate as well. So Zeke's is really kind of a scaling item. Locket is a scaling item. Knight's Vow is not nearly as efficient on Thresh and Rakan, and so that leaves us with Banner of Command. So that helps them both out with their early game. They don't have sustain, and so they can get poked out in theory. I guess Rakan has some sustain if he hits his Qs. But that gives them that option early on. It's particularly good on Rakan because Rakan is so mobile. So, you know, one problem with Banner is you need to make sure you're not out of position. So if you go down here, if their team is grouped as 5 right here, and you go down here and try to banner this, and your team is grouped as 4, and everyone's just kind of having a standoff mid lane, and they see you go down here, then they'll just immediately try to fight your team and win. This happened one time as Thresh. I just walked up here, tried to put Banner, and my team had been really good on not getting engaged on, but then the AD carry just got caught outside, killed. I tried to back, and everyone died by the time I got back, and then it was just me trying to defend against 5 people, and they won the game. Okay, now should they have gotten caught? No. But I also should have had better vision of the area, and I should not have put the banner minion up until we had a secure position where we couldn't get engaged on. So that's a risk of banner, is that when you go try to put the banner in a side lane, your team could potentially get caught. Now, one way you can get around that is just, you know, if your team just kind of sees you're not really doing anything, you can wait until a wave spawns in your base and then put the banner on it there so you don't have to run too far to the side. And you just kind of have to look at the map and see where the waves are, and you'll know when it spawns. So, for example, whenever the minion wave gets to the middle of a lane, roughly, then you know the next wave is going to spawn very soon. So when like the mid lane walks right here, gets to right here, you know there's going to be a wave spawning. So if you're walking up from the fountain, you're back in your base, and you see there's a wave like right here, just chill out and wait if you can, unless there's about to be a huge fight breaking out. If you can just chill and wait for like maybe 3 or 4 seconds, then a wave will spawn, and you can just go ahead and put the banner right on that wave and then go along your way. And then that way you don't have to go middle and then run all the way bottom and then run all the way back, because you just hung out for 3 seconds because you looked at the mini map, you knew a wave was going to spawn, because the previous wave was almost the middle of the lane. You just waited, chilled, put it down, boom, you're done. But sometimes you do have to run to a side lane because you're not going to be back. Like maybe you're right here and your team's kind of pushing in and you see there's a pretty nice wave down here that's kind of stacking up and you want to go put a banner on it. Sometimes you might want to run bottom and put it. Well, one thing with Rakan is he can jump around walls. So if there's like a wave right here, your team's right here and you want to start pushing it in, you can just say chill for a second, run over here, like jump over this wall, go walk to the edge of this. Remember, it has 1200 range. You can spawn a promote a minion here. They may not even notice it because you're going to do it over a wall, so they may not even see it if they're not paying attention. Run over here, promote it, run all the way back, jump over this wall again, boom, you're there. Whereas another champion would have to run like all the way around and then all the way around again. You get to take that shortcut. So that makes Rakan pretty good with it. And Thresh is just pretty good with it because Thresh doesn't need a lot of like super tank items, and neither does Rakan, which is another point that I made here, is they don't need super tank items because they're not designed to sit there and take a ton of hits. So Thresh is designed to primarily be engaged with his hook and then a peeler, right? So he peels with his flay or he engages with his hook. He's not designed to sit there and just take a beating like a Leona or an Alistar or a Braum. He's designed to get in there, you know, start the fight and then get out. Same thing with Rakan. He goes in, uses his W, starts a fight, and then ideally E's to jump back out. So that means they don't need like any kind of weird, like super heavy hitting support items, like, I don't know, like a Dead Man's Plate or a Frozen Heart or a Randuin's or anything like that. I don't think those are great support items anyways, but they don't need it because they're not going to get hit as much. So that means you could get something that's like mildly tanky, but also, you know, is good on champions that don't need to be super tanky to begin with. Okay, so like a good banner build would be you'd go banner early, get your boots to either mobility boots or, I mean, there's a lot of good boot options. Mobility, Ninja, Mercury, Ionian. Get a Ruby Sightstone, combines well with banner. And then once you have that health off of Ruby, then you can consider getting Locket. Or if you're Rakan, you can go Redemption. So that's a pretty good build. Remember, you are going to be sacrificing a little bit of your team fight pressure. But overall, I think a lot of times it's worth getting that macro pressure. So if you're a Tahm Kench or an Alistar, Blitz or Leona, one of those champions, you know, you could still go for the standard, you know, Knight's Vow, Ruby, Locket, and then maybe even banner after that if you want. You could still go that, and that will make you tanky early on. But just remember that it doesn't make you that much more tanky, right? It's marginally more tanky with Knight's Vow. A little bit. Than it is with Banner of Command. And the same thing with Locket. And Locket you don't want to rush. So that's still on the table, but Banner is still good on those champions. I prefer Banner, especially if your team's already pretty far ahead. That just Banner adds that extra map pressure. Now, if they have like a Zed that's 5-0 or something, and they're just going to kill your AD carry all the time unless you get some shields, then yes, of course, you'll want to go something like Knight's Vow into Locket so that your AD carry just doesn't get murdered. But if they don't have that hyper-fed assassin, you know, Banner Command just might be a good idea. So I think it's really good for champions that want to apply extra macro pressure. Okay, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Go out, give Banner a try for yourself. I think it's really strong. And just, you know, watch the stream if you want to know how to use it correctly, or just think about some of the ways I talked about here. Just takes a little bit of practice to kind of figure out when and where you want to put that promoted minion, and just how you can use it, how you can shot call, how you can really take advantage of forcing their team to split up to take care of the banner. So it's going to be it. Thanks very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.